Thank you. So, okay, we are moving to the next agenda of today, which is going to be our table topic master, the impromptu part of our meeting. And that's the word of the day also. And I'll be welcoming Ross, is our table topic master today. Over to you, Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. So we have a lot of reality shows these days. And with the current US government, when people are not really happy, we have to remind ourselves that the Constitution was based on we the people. So as part of the reality show, this is an ideal, or this is just an imaginative situation where they decided that since neither parties are very good and people are discontent with the government, that they're going to randomly pick one person to be the honorary president of the day, and they could decide whatever policies they want and do whatever that they feel is appropriate. So in this scenario, you are being selected as the president of the United States with full authority to pass all executive decisions. And then I'll be listing off the list of situations, and then you would have to respond to how you would handle those situations. So do we have a volunteer for that?
Okay, I'll go if no one else is going. Well, I don't think I better go because we have a lot of people here today. I want everyone to get a chance to speak. So I was the speaker.
I'll start. I'll go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russ, what number did you say?
Number 1 through 7.
I'll take 7.
Okay. So our nation has one of the highest rates of violence from all the major developed nations. And in order to address that, especially for the guns, how would you handle that crisis?
Can you repeat the question?
Our nation has the highest violence among all the, or most of the civilized nations. So how would you handle the situation of reducing violence, especially when it comes to gun control?
Mr. Table Topics Master, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow credible communicators and guests, I've been asked, we have a high rate of violence, especially when it comes to gun control. How would I, as a president for the day, take control of that situation? I think it is hard to do this in one day. However, if that's the only day I have, I'd have to act immediately to, first of all, our policing needs a whole revamping. I think that there's a lot of media attention on the police and how violent they are. What I think they need is they need a lot of training in not just how to handle situations, but also on how to work through situations in a non-violent way. I also think that for our citizens, we don't really need to have a gun in every household. And if we do, there should be a limit and licenses provided and have to be shown to get a license to own a weapon in the house. So you have to go through training, some sort of courses, pay to be able to get and gain access to that weapon, and have a limit on how many you would have. That will eliminate or somehow reduce, hopefully, the amount of weapons out there on the street, and hopefully will eliminate violence. And when police are trying to get into the situation and solve some of the problems, they don't get faced with all these different weapons out there and try to, resolve the situation and possibly end up with more violence, but instead hopefully have enough training to be able to resolve things in a peaceful way. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay, thank you, Nagam. I'd like to ask our next volunteer.
I can go next. Just heads up, I've been out of the loop for a while and I don't know too much. So give me the softest, the easiest question you have out there, please.
He doesn't need an easy question.
Please, please. I don't know much about American politics, so speak for me.
Okay, so if you don't know much about the American politics, I'm going to address this one that's related to the environment that controls that it basically deals with the rest of the world. So I'm going to go with number 8 for you. So the issue about global warming, and there's plenty of evidence by scientists that it's not a hoax, that it's a real thing, that we do have to drastically reduce, or even if possible, reverse the impact of the negative effects that we're having on the environment. What policies or procedures would you enact if you were giving authority for one day to try to improve our environment?
Can I please have you rephrase the question?
Okay, if you're given one day, how would you improve the environment, or what policies would you make so that we have a better environmental impact?
Mr. TableTopics Master, fellow Toastmasters, I was asked as a president of a nation, how would I improve, whether it's global warming or what steps would I take to protect the environment? And I just want to start with a disclaimer. I am a politician, not a scientist. And so as a president, my first and foremost responsibility will be to leverage the expertise and the knowledge of those that surround me who are more educated in that area. If you look at different statistics and data, it is obvious that global warming is indeed happening all over the place. However, there are many contradicting views, whether it's based on someone's religion or experience. Someone in Alaska is not seeing global warming. And so as much as I will be leveraging the expertise of the scientists around me, I have to care for the general population. And what practical steps would I take? In my opinion, I would want to do some independent studies from various universities, both conservative universities, religious universities, a very non-biased study, forget everything that has been done until now, start afresh with no politics involved, purely scientific, and make a decision based on the outcome. I want it to be transparent for the whole population to see what the data shows and how all across the globe, whether it's, conservative universities, religious universities, they all agree and we can all take steps together in the right direction. Back to you.
Thank you, Doji, for that impromptu response.
That was tough.
Have our next speaker or next volunteer.
I can
No.
go.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Number, I don't know what numbers were available. Let's say 2.
1 through 6. Okay, 2 you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So the issue that we have been assigned for is balancing the budget and reducing the deficit, and especially with the high deficit that we have. How would you go about addressing?
Oh, sorry, my mom's laughing at me. Have you no faith? Okay, I'm sorry.
So yeah, if you could manage the house budget, you could manage the United States budget, I guess. So.
God. Okay, well, let's give it a go. Mr. TableTopics Master, fellow Toastmasters, according to my mom, apparently, I can't even balance my own budget. but I will make an attempt at balancing the United States budget. Generally, when it comes to what I do, I just reduce spending on what's not necessary and try to save up for the important stuff and the surprises and things that come along. And I think it's generally a good policy to go by. Obviously, when you're managing the money for a whole nation, it's going to be a lot different, and your priorities are going to be stretched in a lot of different directions. But I do believe that there are certain things that the United States is spending needless money on. Some of these things, I honestly don't know where all this money is coming from, but things like things like prize money for TV shows, and where money is just being given away. I personally don't know where this money is coming from, but I feel like just part of me just just sinks whenever I see these large amounts of money just being randomly given away or thrown away, or people who amass their wealth on social media and things like TikTok and Instagram, and they just have all of this money for doing what, really? And if I were to reduce spending, I would try to maybe crack down on that. I know it's a small part, but I feel like if we look at all of, the small ways that your money is being spent, because even in everyday life, sometimes you just spend these small amounts of money, and you look at your budget at the end of the day and you're like, oh, where did my money go? But you don't realize that, like, oh, I ordered food out one day, or I went shopping that other day. And so I believe that if we do look at the small amounts of spending that are happening, if we try to gather all of those up, hopefully the budget can be saved. And that was my very uneducated opinion about how I would save the budget, Mr. TableTopics Master and fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you. So in prop 2, that was very good for handling a difficult situation. We could ask for our next volunteer.
I can go here.
Okay, so that's Dan. Pick
Yes.
a number 1 through 6, but not 2.
But not 2. Let's go with 4.
4. Okay. The issue is the immigration, especially illegal immigrants. The policy that I would like you to consider is what to do with the ones that are already here illegally, and also the ones that are attempting to enter illegally.
Okay. Mr. TableTopics Master and fellow Toastmasters and guests, the question that was asked of me this evening is, if I were to be president for just one day and could make any sort of executive order when it comes to illegal immigration and what to do with those illegal immigrants who are here, what would I do? So here's what I would do. I would just make an executive order day one. We'd open all the borders and we would make all illegal immigrants no longer illegal. So they're now legal citizens. So that's what I would do on my day as president. And I'll tell you why I would do this. So first of all, I think the reason that we should do this is because there's a lot of crime associated with those people who are here illegally, who are just trying to help themselves and stay out of the limelight such that they're not arrested. So if we just make them all legal, then we don't have to worry about that. So that's a big benefit right there. Another reason that I think that we should make them all illegal and just remove those barriers for other folks is that I think that other nations will get the message that this is the good way of doing business, and that they in turn will have a more positive view of the United States and maybe change some conditions in their countries such that, there wouldn't be, a crazy amount of people that may be coming here illegally. We would just have what it's like in the United States would be the same as what's in Mexico or what's in Canada or what's in other countries. So maybe it would be a non-issue. And I think the third thing, and perhaps the most important reason that we should do this, is because there are many different families that are separated between different countries. So we could say perhaps Mexico in certain circumstances and in the United States. So if you have parents living in Mexico and children living in the United States, and now they're illegal, that's going to cause a real issue. But if we make it legal, then it's no longer an issue. So I think if I was president, I would make an executive order to do that for the day that I'm president for those 3 reasons. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Okay, Dan, thanks. Good to hear your eloquent feedback on that. Very well organized for impromptu response. I'd like to ask for our next volunteer.
Calvin, do you want to try?
Yeah, is that okay? Can I?
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, it's encouraged. It's not just okay, but it's recommended.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give it a try. These are tough questions, though.
They are. Yeah, they are.
They're impromptu, so they can't be that tough. Okay.
How about number 3? If that's
number
okay.
3. Okay. Our nation has a history of not being the most racially equal. How would you handle the racial injustice, and especially by organizations in authority?
Can you repeat the question?
How would you handle racial injustice, especially by organizations in authority? We're talking about the HUD. We're talking about the other agencies that are government-based that discriminate based on race.
Okay.
Just so
Alright.
you can choose another topic if you don't want to answer that.
Yeah. And the other one will be just as hard.
Yeah. I just give it a try. Okay. Thank you for the table topic master and other Toastmasters people. So as president for the day, we would have to recognize what we are as a country, and so ultimately we as the United States are a melting pot of different races, of people with different abilities and strengths. It's the diversity of the people that make this country great, and so we would have to recognize that for what it is, in terms of making policy decisions. I think that the key thing would be to not require race in terms of as even a question, and we would kind of meet people's needs irregardless of race. So for example, for the anyone in the HUD would qualify just based on their on their need, and not based on other factors. So yeah, that is one thing that I would do on as president. Yeah, thank you, table topic master.
Okay. Thank you, Calvin. So that you didn't sound like you were struggling through it. Towards the end, you had clear direction of where you wanted to go, and you had presented some well-organized thoughts. So that's what impromptu is. It's about preparing or not preparing, but just speaking on something from the top of your mind. You did very well for the first time. So look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Do we have, see if we have time for one more, or?
No, at this point, I think we'll just, oh, it's just one. If we can do one more. No, sorry, no.
Okay.
No, we have to move to the next part of the meeting. This is almost 5:20. Thank you for that.
Okay, so I'd like to
Impromptu
hand it over to
table
Mr.
topic.